Good morning, children. I hope you all are safe at home. So stay home and stay safe. So, I will ask you one question. What do you mean by the term nationalism? So, the term nationalism means an identification with one's own nation and support for its interest. Or, in simple words, we can say the loyalty and devotion to a nation. So, our first chapter is the rise of nationalism in Europe. So, in the year 1848, a French artist named Frédéric Soriot, he prepared a series of 4 prints visualizing his dream of a world made up of democratic and social republic. And in his print, it shows the people of Europe and America, the men and women of all ages and all social classes. They're marching in a long queue like a train, and they're offering homage to the Statue of Liberty as they pass by. So what do you mean by the term homage? It is a special honor or respect. So during this 19th century, nationalism emerged as a force which brought about sweeping changes in the political and mental world of Europe, and this gave rise to the term called nation state. So this is a new term for you all. Nation state means one in which the majority of its citizens and not only its rulers came to develop a sense of common identity and shared history or descent. The next point is the French Revolution and the idea of a nation. So the first clear expression of nationalism came with the French Revolution, which took place in the year 1789. The French revolutionaries introduced various changes, various measures and practices that could create a sense of collective identity among the French people. So what were these practices and changes? So the first is the ideas of la patrie, which means the fatherland, and les citoyens, which means the citizen, emphasize the notion of united community. The second point is a new French flag, which is the tricolor. It was chosen to replace the former royal standard. The third is the Estates General was elected by a body of active citizens and renamed the National Assembly. Number 4, new hymns were composed. So what do you mean by hymns? They were the religious poem in praise to a god. The fifth point is oaths were taken. So oaths here means the promises. Number 6, martyrs were commemorated, all in the name of a nation. So the martyrs are the persons who sacrificed for the cause of the nation. They were memorized, they were commemorated by the people. 7th, a centralized administrative system was put in place. Number 8, it formulated uniform laws, means the same laws for all the citizens. Number 9 is internal customs and duties were abolished, and in place of that, uniform system of weights and measures were adopted. The last point is regional dialects were discouraged, and French language, which was a language that was spoken by most of the people and written by the people in Paris, became the common language of the nation. So these are the 10 points, the practices which were adopted. Now moving on to our next topic, the Civil Code of 1804. So this Civil Code of 1804 was also known as the Napoleonic Code, and it did away with all the privileges based on birth, and it established equality before law. It also secured the right to property. This code, the Napoleonic Code or the Civil Code of 1804, it was exported to the regions under French control. In the Dutch Republic, Switzerland, Italy and Germany. So what did Napoleon do here? He simplified the administrative divisions. He abolished the feudal system. He made free to the peasants from the dues, the manorial dues. The guild restrictions were removed in the towns. So the guild restrictions here means the associations of the merchants and the craft persons. The transport and communication systems were improved. The peasants, the artisans, workers, new businessmen, they enjoyed new type of freedom. There were standardized weights and measures. A common national currency would facilitate the movement and exchange of goods and capital from one region to another region. At this point of time, the rise of aristocratic class took place. So our topic of now is the aristocracy and the new middle class. So what do you mean by the term aristocracy? So it is a government which is ruled by or consisting of the people of high social class. So this aristocratic class or the new middle class, they own estates in the countryside and also town houses. They spoke French for the purpose of diplomacy, which means the art of dealing with the people in a very tactful way. And their families, they were connected by the ties of marriage. And this powerful aristocracy, it was a very small group, and the majority at that time were peasantry. So now we will read about a new term which is liberalism. So liber, it is a Latin word which means free. It has different meanings in different contexts. Like in the social point of view, liberalism, it stood for the freedom for the individual and equality of all before law. That means all are equal in the eyes of law. In the political point of view, it emphasized the concept of government by consent. And during the French Revolution, liberalism, it stood for the end of autocracy and clerical privileges. Now moving on to the economic sphere, liberalism stood for freedom of markets and the abolition of state imposed restrictions on the movement of goods and capital. Now we will read a new term which is Jolve reign. So Jolve reign in the year 1834, it was a customs union. It is a type of free trade agreement which involves removal of the tariff barriers. And it was formed at the initiative of Prussia and joined by most of the German states. A new conservatism after 1815. So you might be thinking, who are the conservatives? So the conservatives, they believed that established traditional institutions of state and society like the monarchy, the church, the social hierarchies, property and family should be preserved. Now moving on to the Treaty of Vienna, which took place in the year 1815. So the Bourbon dynasty. So the word Bourbon, it is an European royal house of French origin. So the Bourbon dynasty was brought back to power. France lost its territories it had annexed under Napoleon. So to prevent the French invasion, a series of states were set up on the boundaries of France, which led to the setting of the Kingdom of Netherlands in the north and the Kingdom of Genoa in the south. Prussia at that time was given new territories on its western frontiers, and Austria was given the control of northern Italy. So this Treaty of Vienna, it took place in the year 1815. So who were the revolutionaries at that time? So one of the revolutionaries at that time was Mazzini, and his full name was Giuseppe Mazzini. He was an Italian revolutionary and he was born in Genoa in the year 1807. So he became a member of the secret society of Carbonari. And Giuseppe Mazzini, he also founded two underground societies. So what were these two underground societies? The first one is Young Italy in Marseilles, and the second one is young Europe in Bern. So Giuseppe Mazzini, he was an Italian revolutionary and he was born in Genoa in the year 1807, and he found two underground societies of young Italy in Marseilles and young Europe in Bern. Metternich, he described Giuseppe Mazzini as the most dangerous enemy of social order. Okay, so Giuseppe Mazzini was one of the important Italian revolutionary. So I think up to this much is clear to you all. Like, who was Frederick Sorio? He was a French artist. Who was Mazzini? He was an Italian revolutionary. What do you mean by liberalism? It is a Latin word which means liber. So when did this Treaty of Vienna take place? It took place in the year 1815. So what is the other name of the Civil Code of 1804? It is the Napoleonic Code. And the Zollverein, it took place in the year 1834. So I think up to this much you have understood the chapter. So in my next video, I'll be explaining the rest of the chapter. Thank you, class.